Part 1. The unexpected protector. The clock on the hospital wall showed 11:47 p.m. when Lisa finally finished her shift. Her white nursing shoes squeaked against the polished floor as she walked down the empty hallway. After 12 hours of taking care of patients, all she wanted was some food and her bed. Lisa had been working at City General Hospital for 3 years now. At 28, she was one of the younger nurses, but her colleagues respected her. She never backed down from difficult patients or scary situations. Her small frame and quiet voice often fooled people into thinking she was weak. They were wrong. The hospital cafeteria had closed hours ago, and Lisa's stomach was growling. She remembered seeing a diner called Murphy's about 10 minutes away. It wasn't fancy, but it stayed open late and served decent food. Perfect for a tired nurse who just wanted something warm to eat. The July heat hit her as soon as she stepped outside. Even at midnight, the air felt thick and sticky. Her old Honda Civic took a few tries to start, but finally came to life. The radio played soft rock as she drove through the quiet streets. Murphy's Diner sat on the corner of 5th and Main Street. The neon sign flickered, and half the letters didn't light up anymore. But warm yellow light spilled from the windows, and Lisa could see people inside. It looked welcoming enough. The bell above the door chimed as she entered. The smell of coffee and fried food filled the air. Red vinyl booths lined the walls, and a long counter stretched across the back. It was the kind of place that hadn't changed its look since the 1970s. A waitress with tired eyes and gray hair approached her. "Sit anywhere you like, hon. Kitchen's still open for another hour." Lisa chose a booth near the window where she could see her car. As a woman eating alone at midnight, she had learned to be careful. She picked up the plastic menu and scanned the options. Nothing fancy, but everything looked filling. That's when she noticed him. In the far corner booth sat a man who looked like he belonged in a different world. He was huge, probably 6 feet tall, and built like he spent his life lifting heavy things. His arms were covered in tattoos, and his dark hair was pulled back in a ponytail. But what really caught her attention was the leather vest he wore. Lisa had seen enough movies to recognize the patches. The skull with wings, the words Hell's Angels curved across the top. Below that, Oakland and California. This was a real motorcycle club member, not some weekend rider pretending to be tough. The man sat alone, slowly eating a burger and fries. He looked tired, maybe even sad. Despite his intimidating appearance, something about him seemed lonely. Lisa found herself wondering what his story was. She ordered a grilled cheese sandwich and tomato soup, comfort food after a long day. The waitress, whose name tag read Betty, brought her coffee without being asked. "First time here?" Betty asked, refilling the man's coffee cup too. "Yeah, just got off work at the hospital," Lisa replied, keeping her voice low. Betty nodded toward the man in the corner. "That's Jake. He's been coming here for years, real quiet type. Always polite, always tips well. Don't let the leather scare you." Lisa smiled. "I don't scare easily." It was true. Working in a hospital emergency room had shown her every type of person. She had treated gang members and police officers, drug addicts and wealthy businessmen. Most people were just trying to get through life, dealing with their own problems and pain. Jake seemed to sense her looking at him. He glanced up, and their eyes met for a second. He had dark brown eyes that looked older than his face. He nodded slightly, not friendly, but not unfriendly either. Just acknowledging her presence, Lisa nodded back and returned to her menu. She wondered what brought a Hells Angels member to a quiet diner at midnight. Maybe he worked late too. Maybe he was traveling and needed a place to rest. Or maybe he just wanted somewhere peaceful to think. Her food arrived hot and fresh. The grilled cheese was crispy on the outside and gooey on the inside, exactly how she liked it. The soup warmed her tired body. She ate slowly, enjoying the quiet atmosphere and the break from the hospital's constant noise. The diner had maybe 6 other customers. An elderly man reading a newspaper at the counter. A young couple sharing a milkshake in a booth. 2 truck drivers arguing about the best route to Denver. Normal people living normal lives. Jake finished his meal and left money on the table. As he stood up, Lisa could see just how big he really was. The leather vest fit snugly across his broad shoulders. His boots were heavy and worn, like he did a lot of walking or riding. He stopped at the counter to pay his bill. Chatting quietly with Betty, Lisa caught fragments of their conversation, something about his bike needing new tires and the weather being perfect for riding. His voice was deeper than she expected, but gentler too. As he headed for the door, Jake looked at Lisa again. This time he smiled slightly, just a small upturn of his mouth, but it changed his whole face. He looked less scary and more human, like someone who might help you change a flat tire or give directions to a lost tourist. The bell chimed as he left. Through the window, Lisa watched him walk to a massive black motorcycle parked under a streetlight. Even she could tell it was expensive and well-maintained. The chrome gleamed, and the paint job was perfect. Jake put on a helmet and started the engine. The sound was loud but smooth, like a powerful animal purring. He pulled out of the parking lot slowly, careful not to rev the engine too much near the sleeping neighborhood. Lisa finished her soup and asked for the check. Betty brought it over with a smile. "You seem like a nice girl," the older woman said. "You work at the hospital?" "Emergency room nurse," Lisa replied, leaving a generous tip. "Well, bless your heart, that's important work. We need more people like you." As Lisa drove home to her small apartment, she thought about the brief encounter. She had spent maybe 30 minutes in the same room as a Hells Angels member, and nothing dramatic had happened. He ate his dinner, paid his bill, and left quietly. Just like any other customer. It made her think about assumptions and judgments. How many times had people looked at her small frame and quiet demeanor and assumed she was weak? How many times had they been surprised by her strength and determination? Maybe Jake dealt with the same thing in reverse. People probably saw the leather and patches and assumed he was dangerous or violent. Maybe he was just a guy who liked motorcycles and found brotherhood with other riders. Lisa had no way of knowing that in less than 24 hours, she would see Jake again under very different circumstances. She couldn't predict that her life was about to change in ways she never imagined. All because sometimes the most important moments start with the smallest decisions. Like choosing which diner to visit after a long shift at the hospital. Part 2. Split-second decision. 22 hours later, Lisa found herself back at Murphy's Diner. It wasn't planned. She had intended to go straight home after another exhausting shift. But her refrigerator was empty and the grocery stores were closed. The diner's warm lights beckoned her once again. This time felt different, though. As she parked her Honda, Lisa noticed more motorcycles in the lot. 3 big bikes sat under the streetlights, their chrome reflecting the neon signs. Her stomach tightened slightly. One motorcycle rider was fine, but 3 might mean trouble. She almost drove away. Almost, but hunger won over caution, and she really did love their grilled cheese sandwiches. Besides, she told herself she was probably overreacting. Bikers had to eat too. The bell chimed as she entered, and immediately she felt the tension in the air. Jake sat in his usual corner booth, but he wasn't alone this time. 2 other men in leather vests flanked him on either side. Their conversation was quiet but intense. Betty caught Lisa's eye and subtly shook her head, as if to say, "Maybe not tonight, hun," but Lisa had already committed. Backing out now would look suspicious and might draw more attention. She chose a booth with a clear view of the exit, keeping her purse close. The other customers seemed nervous too. The elderly man from last night was gone. The truck drivers kept glancing toward the biker's table. Lisa ordered coffee and a sandwich, trying to appear casual while staying alert. Her nursing training had taught her to read body language and recognize when situations might turn dangerous. The tension between the 3 men was obvious even from across the room. Jake looked stressed. His usual calm demeanor was replaced by something harder, more guarded. The other 2 men kept their voices low, but their gestures were sharp and aggressive. This wasn't a friendly dinner meeting. One of the other bikers was older, maybe 50, with gray streaking his beard. Prison tattoos covered his arms, and a scar ran from his left ear to his chin. The third man was younger, probably in his 30s, with cold blue eyes that seemed to take in everything around him. Lisa tried to focus on her food, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something bad was about to happen. Her instincts, finally, tuned from years of dealing with medical emergencies, was screaming warnings. The older biker stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "This ain't over, Jake," he said, loud enough for half the diner to hear. "You think about what we discussed." Jake remained seated, but his jaw was tight. "I already gave you my answer, Tommy." "Wrong answer?" the younger biker added, standing as well. "You got 24 hours to reconsider." The two men left money on the table and headed for the door. As they passed Lisa's booth, the younger one looked directly at her. His stare was cold and calculating, like he was memorizing her face. A chill ran down her spine. After they left, the diner's atmosphere lightened considerably. Other customers went back to their conversations. Betty bustled around, refilling coffee cups and trying to restore normalcy, but Jake remained tense. He stared out the window, watching the two motorcycles pull out of the parking lot. His hands were clenched into fists on the table. Lisa wanted to leave, but something made her stay. Maybe it was professional instinct. She could see that Jake was upset, possibly even scared. Despite his intimidating appearance, he looked like someone who needed help. She was debating whether to say something when the diner's front door burst open. 3 men in dark clothes rushed in, moving with purpose and barely controlled rage. The leader was tall and thin, with stringy black hair and wild eyes. He carried something in his right hand that made Lisa's blood run cold, a gun. Everything happened in slow motion and lightning fast at the same time. The gunman scanned the room until his eyes locked on Jake, his face twisted into a snarl of hatred. "There you are, you piece of trash!" he shouted, raising the weapon. Jake started to stand, his hand moving toward his own jacket. But he was too slow. The gunman's finger was already on the trigger. Lisa didn't think, she didn't plan. She didn't weigh the consequences or consider her own safety. Years of medical training had programmed her to act when someone was in danger. She launched herself from her booth. Her small body collided with Jake's much larger frame just as the gun went off. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. Women screamed. Men shouted. Lisa felt a burning sensation across her left shoulder as she and Jake crashed to the floor. The gunman cursed loudly, trying to line up another shot. But Jake had recovered from the surprise. Still on the ground with Lisa on top of him, he pulled his own weapon and fired back. The noise was incredible. More shots rang out as the other customers dove for cover behind tables and counters. Betty was screaming into the phone, probably calling 911. Lisa felt Jake's strong arms wrap around her, protecting her as they rolled behind an overturned table. Her shoulder was on fire, and she could feel warm wetness spreading down her arm. But she was alive. "Stay down," Jake shouted over the chaos. He peered around the table edge, trying to track the gunman. More shots. The sound of breaking glass. Someone was crying. Lisa's medical training kicked in despite the pain and fear. She needed to assess her injury and help any other wounded people. But first, they had to survive this. Jake fired again, and one of the attackers yelped in pain. "Got one." He called out but kept his weapon ready. The gunfire stopped suddenly. Lisa could hear running footsteps and car doors slamming outside. Engines roared to life and tires screeched against asphalt. Then silence, except for the ringing in everyone's ears. Jake slowly raised his head above their makeshift cover. "They're gone," he announced, but kept his gun drawn. Lisa tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Pain shot through her shoulder, and the world spun slightly. She looked down and saw blood soaking through her white nursing scrubs. "You're hit," Jake said, kneeling beside her. His voice was gentle now, all the hardness gone. "Let me see." With surprisingly careful hands for such a big man, he examined her shoulder. "Looks like it went through the muscle." "Missed the bone and major arteries. You're gonna be okay." "I'm a nurse," Lisa managed to say through gritted teeth. "I know it's not life-threatening." Jake stared at her with something like amazement. "You saved my life. Why would you do that?" "You don't even know me." Lisa met his eyes. Even through the pain and shock, her answer was clear. Because it was the right thing to do. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Soon the diner would be full of police and paramedics. Lisa's quiet life was about to become very complicated, but looking at Jake's grateful expression, she knew she would make the same choice again. Some moments define who you really are, and this was one of them. Part 3. Honor Among Outlaws. The emergency room at City General Hospital buzzed with activity. Lisa sat on a gurney, wincing as Dr. Peterson cleaned her gunshot wound. The bullet had passed through the fleshy part of her shoulder, painful but not dangerous. She would need stitches and antibiotics, but she was lucky. Jake paced the small treatment room like a caged animal. He had insisted on bringing her to the hospital himself, riding behind the ambulance on his motorcycle. The police had wanted to separate them for questioning, but Jake refused to leave until he knew Lisa was okay. "You should go home," Lisa told him as the doctor worked. "This isn't your responsibility." Jake stopped pacing and looked at her seriously. "Lady, you took a bullet meant for me. That makes it my responsibility forever." Dr. Peterson glanced between them curiously, but continued his work. As Lisa's colleague, he knew she was sensible and careful. Finding her in the middle of a shooting was completely out of character. "The police will want to talk to both of you," the doctor said, tying off the last stitch. "But Lisa, you need rest. Take at least a week off work." After Dr. Peterson left, Jake pulled a chair close to Lisa's bed. "I need to tell you something," he said quietly. "Those men who came after me, this isn't over. They work for someone who doesn't like to lose." Lisa felt a chill that had nothing to do with the hospital's air conditioning. "What kind of trouble are you in?" Jake ran his hands through his hair. "It's complicated. Business disagreements in my world can get ugly fast. I tried to stay out of it, but they wouldn't let me." Before Lisa could respond, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and saw an unknown number. "Don't answer that," Jake said quickly. "From now on, be careful who you talk to. These people might try to use you to get to me." The reality of her situation started to sink in. By saving Jake's life, she had made enemies she didn't even know existed. People who were willing to shoot up a public place wouldn't hesitate to hurt an innocent nurse. "I should call my sister," Lisa said. "She needs to know what happened in case someone comes looking for me." Jake nodded. "Smart thinking. But first I need to make some calls too. My brothers need to know what went down tonight." He stepped outside to use his phone, giving Lisa privacy to call her family. Through the window she could see him talking intensely, his free hand gesturing as he spoke. 20 minutes later, Detective Williams arrived to take their statements. He was a middle-aged black man with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. Lisa had worked with him before when treating assault victims. "Lisa, I have to ask," Detective Williams said after hearing their stories. "Are you involved with this motorcycle club in any way?" "I met Jake for the first time yesterday," Lisa replied honestly. "I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time." The detective looked skeptical. "And you threw yourself in front of a gun for a stranger?" "It's what I do," Lisa said simply. "I help people," Jake spoke up. "Detective, she's telling the truth. She's not part of this world. She just got caught in the middle because she has a good heart." Detective Williams took detailed notes and promised to have patrol cars check Lisa's apartment building. But everyone knew the police couldn't provide round-the-clock protection. After the detective left, Jake's phone rang. He answered with a simple, "Yeah," then listened intently. Lisa watched his expression change from concern to something that might have been relief. "My president wants to meet you," he said after hanging up. "Steele Mike, he's the head of our Oakland chapter." Lisa's eyes widened. "Why would he want to meet me?" "Because of what you did. In our world, loyalty and courage mean everything. You showed both tonight, even though you didn't have to." An hour later, Jake helped Lisa to his motorcycle. She had never been on a bike before, and despite everything that had happened, she felt nervous. "Just hold on tight and lean with me on the turns," Jake instructed, handing her a helmet. "I'll take it easy." The ride took 15 minutes through quiet city streets. Lisa found herself relaxing as the wind whipped past them. There was something freeing about the open feeling, the sense of movement without barriers. They pulled up to a building that looked like an old auto repair shop. Several motorcycles were parked outside, and men in leather vests stood talking in small groups. They all looked up as Jake and Lisa arrived. "That's her," one of them said, and Lisa felt dozens of eyes studying her. Jake helped her off the bike and guided her toward the building. "Don't worry," he said quietly. "These are good people. They just look scary." Inside, the space was set up like a clubhouse. Pool tables, a bar, couches arranged in conversation areas. Photos of motorcycles and group rides covered the walls. It felt welcoming despite the intimidating presence of so many large men in leather. A man approached them from across the room. He was shorter than Jake but built like a tank, with salt and pepper hair and intelligent gray eyes. Despite his casual clothes, he carried himself with unmistakable authority. "You must be Lisa," he said, extending his hand. "I'm Mike. Thank you for what you did tonight." Lisa shook his hand, surprised by his polite manner. "I just did what anyone would do." Mike smiled. "No, you did what the right person would do. And that makes all the difference." He gestured for them to sit at a quiet table away from the others. "Jake told me what happened. You saved one of my brother's lives and you got hurt doing it. That means something to us." "I don't want any trouble," Lisa said. "I just want this to be over." Mike's expression grew serious. "I understand. But the people who came after Jake won't stop because you want them to. They're angry and dangerous, and now they know you exist." Lisa felt fear creep into her chest. "What does that mean?" "It means you're under our protection now," Mike said firmly. "We take care of our own. And we take care of people who take care of our own. Nobody's going to hurt you while we're around." Jake leaned forward. "These guys have connections everywhere. Police, informants, other clubs. If someone's looking for you, we'll know about it first." Lisa looked around the room at the dozens of bikers. They were still scary looking, but now she saw something else in their faces: respect, acceptance, like she had passed some kind of test she didn't know she was taking. "I don't know anything about this world," she admitted. Mike smiled. "You don't need to. You just need to know that you have friends now. More friends than you realize." As if on cue, Jake's phone buzzed. He answered, listened for a moment, then looked at Mike with raised eyebrows. "What is it?" Mike asked. Jake's expression was amazed. "Word's getting around. Brothers from San Francisco, Sacramento, even Los Angeles are asking about the nurse who saved my life. They want to help." Mike nodded with satisfaction. "Good, let them know we appreciate the support." Lisa felt overwhelmed. A few hours ago, she was just a tired nurse getting dinner at a diner. Now she was sitting in a motorcycle club headquarters, discussing protection from dangerous criminals. "This is all happening so fast," she said. Mike's voice was gentle but firm. "Sometimes. Life changes in an instant. You made a choice tonight that showed who you really are. Now we're making a choice that shows who we really are." He stood up and addressed the room. "Listen up, this is Lisa. She took a bullet protecting one of our brothers. From now on, she's family. Anyone who has a problem with that can talk to me." The room erupted in nods of approval and calls of support. Lisa felt tears in her eyes, not from fear this time, but from being surrounded by unexpected acceptance and protection. Jake squeezed her good shoulder gently. "Welcome to a whole new world," he said with a smile. Part 4. The hunt begins. The sun was barely peeking over the horizon when the first rumble of motorcycle engines began. Lisa woke up in the small apartment above the clubhouse. Mike had insisted she stay there for safety. Through the window, she watched as bikers arrived one by one, then in groups, then in long lines that seemed to go on forever. By 8 a.m., the parking lot looked like a motorcycle convention. Harley-Davidsons of every size and color filled every available space. Men in leather vests stood around in clusters, drinking coffee and talking in low voices. The patches on their backs told stories of different chapters: San Francisco, Sacramento, Los Angeles, Fresno. Lisa had never seen anything like it. "How many are out there?" she asked Jake, who was standing guard outside her door. "Last count was 96, he replied. "More are still coming," the number shocked her. All because of what happened last night? Jake turned to look at her seriously. Lisa, you don't understand what you did. In our world, when someone threatens one of ours, we respond. When someone protects one of ours, especially someone who isn't even part of our family, that means something huge. Downstairs, the clubhouse had transformed into a command center. Maps covered the tables. Phones rang constantly. Men came and went, reporting information and receiving assignments. Mike stood at the center of it all, coordinating like a general, planning a military operation. Vincent Viper Castellano, he announced to the room, that's our target. He's the one who tried to kill Jake and shot Lisa. Lisa felt a chill hearing the gunman's name. Somehow, having a name made him more real and more scary. What do we know about him? Asked the biker from the San Francisco chapter. Another member stepped forward with a folder. Viper runs drugs for the Twisted Serpents, Ems. They're trying to muscle in on territory that's been neutral for years. When Jake refused to help them move product through Oakland, they decided to make an example of him. Mike nodded grimly. Which means this was never just about Jake. They want to start a war, and they're willing to hurt innocent people to do it. The room filled with angry murmurs. Lisa could feel the tension building like electricity before a storm. How are we? Going to find him? Someone called out. Mike smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. We have friends everywhere. Street dealers, bartenders, mechanics, even some people in law enforcement who believe in justice. Viper thinks he can hide. But there's nowhere in this state where someone doesn't owe us a favor. Jake approached Mike's table. What about Lisa? Should we move her somewhere safer? No, Mike replied. She's safest here, surrounded by family. Besides, I think she might want to hear this. He gestured for Lisa to join them. Reluctantly, she walked down the stairs. Every conversation stopped as she entered the main room. Dozens of tough-looking men turned to look at the small nurse who had changed everything. Lisa, Mike said loud enough for everyone to hear, we're going to find the man who shot you. We're going to make sure he can never hurt you or anyone else. Again, but I want you to understand, this isn't about revenge. This is about justice and protection. A biker with a gray beard and kind eyes stepped forward. Ma'am, I've got daughters about your age. What you did last night took more courage than most soldiers show in war. We're honored to call you family. Other men nodded in agreement. Lisa felt overwhelmed by their respect and support. These weren't the mindless criminals she had expected. They were organized, intelligent, and guided by their own code of honor. How? Can I help? She asked, surprising herself. Mike raised his eyebrows. You want to help? Viper tried to kill Jake and he shot me. He's dangerous and he's still out there. If I can do something to help catch him safely, I want to try. The room erupted in approving comments. Jake looked proud and Mike nodded. With respect. We might need you to talk to the police, Mike said. Some of our methods aren't exactly legal, but Detective Williams seems like a straight shooter. If we find evidence of Viper's location, you could pass it along through proper channels. Over the next few hours, Lisa watched the most efficient information network she had ever seen spring into action. Bikers left in small groups, heading to different parts of the city. They visited auto shops, bars, tattoo parlors, and other businesses where criminals might hide or seek help. Phone calls came in constantly. Viper was seen at a gas station in Richmond. Someone matching his description bought supplies at a hardware store. The Twisted Serpents have a safe house on Industrial Boulevard. Mike tracked every lead on a large map, using colored pins to mark confirmed sightings and suspected locations. A pattern began to emerge. He's staying in the warehouse district, Mike announced around noon, probably moving between abandoned buildings to avoid detection. More bikers arrived throughout the day. The count reached 120 by evening. The parking lot was so full that motorcycles lined the street for 3 blocks. In each direction, local residents came out to watch the unprecedented gathering. Detective Williams arrived around 6 p.m., looking both impressed and concerned by the massive show of force. Mike, I need to know what you're planning, he said. I can't have vigilante? Justice in my city. We're not planning anything illegal, Mike replied carefully. We're just looking for information about the man who shot a nurse and tried to kill one of our members. With 120 bikers? Mike shrugged. We believe in being thorough. Detective Williams turned to Lisa. Are you okay with this? Because I can arrange protective custody through official channels. Lisa looked around the room at all the men who had dropped everything to protect her and seek justice for the attack. I feel safer here than I would anywhere else, she said honestly. The detective sighed. Just remember, if you find Viper, you call me immediately. Let the law handle the arrest. After he left, Mike gathered his key members around the map table. We've narrowed it down to 3 possible locations. Tomorrow we start checking them out. What if we find him? Jake asked. Mike's expression was steel. Then we make sure he faces justice for what he did. But we do it right. Lisa saved your life, Jake. Honor that by showing her that we're better than the people who tried to hurt us. As the sun set, groups of bikers set up camp in the parking lot and surrounding area. Some had sleeping bags, others just planned to doze on their bikes. No one was going home until this was finished. Lisa stood at the window, watching the sea of leather and chrome below. 24 hours ago, she was just a nurse living a quiet life. Now she was at the center of the largest motorcycle club gathering the city had ever seen. Scared? Jake asked, joining her at the window. A little, she admitted, but also amazed. I had no idea people like you existed. People like us? People who live by honor and loyalty? People who actually do something when they see injustice. She paused. I work in a hospital. I see a lot of violence and cruelty. But I also see people step up to help strangers, even when it costs them something. That's what you all are doing now, Jake smiled. That's what you did first. Outside, the bikers maintained their vigil. Somewhere out there, Viper was hiding, probably terrified by the army of riders searching for him. He had made the mistake of thinking his violence would go unanswered. He was about to learn how wrong he was. Part 5. Cat and Mouse Viper pressed his back against the cold concrete wall of the abandoned warehouse, his heart pounding so hard he was sure someone would hear it. Through a broken window, he could see motorcycle headlights sweeping the industrial district like searchlights. They were getting closer. He had been running for 36 hours straight, and exhaustion was making him sloppy. What should have been a simple hit on Jake had turned into a nightmare. Now half the motorcycle clubs in California seemed to be hunting him. His phone buzzed with a text from his club president. You're on your own until this blows over. Find somewhere to hide. Viper cursed under his breath. The Twisted Serpents were abandoning him because they didn't want war with the Hells Angels. He was expendable, just another soldier they could sacrifice to save themselves. 3 miles away, Lisa sat in the clubhouse kitchen watching the coordinated search unfold on multiple computer screens. The bikers had set up a high-tech operation that would impress any police department. Members with military backgrounds had organized search grids. Others with technology skills tracked social media and monitored police scanners. Anything? She asked Jake, who was studying reports from the field teams. Getting close, he replied. He's definitely in the warehouse district. 2 different people saw someone matching his description near the old textile factory. Mike walked over with a thermos of coffee. How's your shoulder feeling? Lisa moved her arm carefully. Better, the pain medication is helping, she paused. Mike, can I ask you something? Sure. Why are you doing all this for me? I appreciate it. But this seems like way more than just protection. Mike sat down across from her, his expression thoughtful. You know what most people do when they see trouble coming? They run. They look the other way. They find excuses not to get involved, Lisa nodded. She had seen it countless times in the emergency room. Witnesses who suddenly couldn't remember what they saw. Family members who disappeared when police asked questions. But you, Mike continued, you saw a stranger in danger and threw yourself between him and a bullet. No hesitation. No thought for your own safety. That's the kind of person we respect above all others. Jake's radio crackled to life. Team 3. To base, we've got movement in Sector 7. Someone's jumping between buildings. Mike grabbed the radio. Copy that. All teams converge on Sector 7, but maintain distance. Do not engage. We just want to locate. Lisa watched the bikers move. Like pieces on a chessboard, coordinating through radios and cell phones. It was impressive and slightly frightening to see such organization and efficiency. Meanwhile, Viper had spotted the search teams closing in. He needed transportation and somewhere safe to hide until he could figure out his next move. The stolen car he had been using was out of gas and too recognizable anyway. He remembered a contact from his drug dealing days, Tony Ramirez, who ran a chop shop on the east side. Tony owed him favors, and more importantly, Tony was scared enough of the twisted serpents to help without asking too many questions. Viper used back alleys and abandoned lots to make his way across the city, staying off main streets where the bikers might spot him. It took 2 hours of careful movement, but he finally reached Tony's garage. Viper? Tony looked shocked and nervous when he opened the door. Man, what are you doing here? The whole city's looking for you. I need a car and a safe place to crash. For a few days, Viper said, pushing past him into the garage. Tony shook his head. No way, man. You shot a nurse. Even the other gang think you went too far? Nobody wants any part of this. Viper's hand moved to the gun in his jacket. I'm not asking Tony. Before Tony could respond, his phone rang. He glanced at the caller ID and went pale. It's my nephew. He works at a gas station downtown. Let me just... Tony, uncle, you need to know something. There's bikers everywhere asking about some guy named Viper. They're showing his picture. To everyone, they said to call a number if anyone sees him. Viper could hear every word of the conversation. His blood ran cold as he realized the scope of the search. These weren't just Oakland Hells Angels. This was multiple clubs working together. Tell them you haven't seen anything, Viper whispered, but Tony was already hanging up. I'm sorry, man, Tony said, backing away. I got family to think about. I can't get involved in this. Viper pulled his gun. You're already involved. Back at the clubhouse, reports were flowing in from all over the city. The network of contacts was working perfectly. Gas station attendants, mechanics, restaurant workers, even some police officers were calling in tips. He's running out of places to hide, Jake observed, marking the latest sightings on the map. His own club won't help him, and he's burned through most of his criminal contacts. Detective Williams arrived with an update from the official investigation. We've identified 2 of his associates who were at the diner. Both have records for drug dealing and assault. We think they're hiding in a hotel downtown. Mike studied the information. Good, that gives us another angle to work. Lisa had been quiet, watching everything unfold. Finally, she spoke up. What happens when you find him? The room went silent. Everyone understood the question behind her question. Were they planning to kill Viper or turn him over to the police? Mike answered carefully. That depends on him. If he surrenders peacefully, we'll make sure he gets to the police alive. If he tries to hurt more innocent people, he let the sentence hang unfinished. Jake's radio crackled again. All teams, we have a confirmed sighting. Viper is at Tony's auto shop on East Industrial. Armed and holding the owner hostage, Mike immediately grabbed his jacket. That's it. Everyone moves now. Wait, Lisa said, standing up despite the pain in her shoulder. Let me call Detective Williams. If Viper has a hostage, this needs to be handled by professionals. Some of the bikers looked impatient, but Mike nodded. She's right, make the call. As Lisa dialed the detective's number, she could hear motorcycle engines starting up outside. Within minutes, the entire army of bikers would descend on Tony's shop. She just hoped they would get there in time to prevent more violence. Detective Williams answered on the second ring. Williams here. Detective, it's Lisa. We found Viper. He's at Tony's auto shop on East Industrial, and he has a hostage. How do you know this? Lisa looked at Mike, who nodded. The bikers found him. They're heading there now, but they called the police first. Tell them to stay back. We'll handle this. But as Lisa hung up, she could see through the window that most of the bikers were already gone. The parking lot that had been full of motorcycles was nearly empty. They left to surround the area, Mike explained. But they won't go in until the police arrive. We keep our word. Lisa hoped he was right. After everything that had happened, she didn't want more people to get hurt, even Viper. The next few hours would determine whether this ended with justice or tragedy. Part 6. The confrontation. The auto shop was surrounded within 20 minutes. Police cars blocked both ends of the street while SWAT officers took positions behind concrete barriers. But they weren't alone. Motorcycles had formed a second perimeter, their riders watching silently from a distance. Detective Williams coordinated with the SWAT commander, while keeping one eye on the bikers. "How many of them are out there?" he asked his sergeant. "Best count is about 80, came the reply. "They're not interfering, just dotting. Inside Tony's garage, Viper was becoming increasingly desperate. He could hear sirens and the rumble of motorcycle engines through the walls. Tony sat on the floor with his hands zip-tied behind his back, looking terrified but trying to stay calm. "This is all your fault," Viper muttered, pacing back and forth. "If you had just given me a car—" "Man, they would have found you anyway," Tony replied. "These guys got eyes everywhere." "You picked the wrong people to mess with." Viper's phone had been ringing constantly. News crews wanting interviews, his lawyer demanding to know where he was, even his ex-girlfriend asking if the rumors were true. He had turned it off an hour ago, but the silence was somehow worse than the noise. At the clubhouse, Lisa watched the standoff unfold on live television. News helicopters circled the area while reporters tried to make sense of the massive biker presence. "This is unprecedented," one reporter was saying. Law enforcement sources confirm that multiple motorcycle clubs have joined forces to locate the suspect who shot a local nurse during an attempted murder. Lisa felt strange watching herself become part of a news story. The reporter made it sound like she was some kind of hero, but she still just felt like a nurse who had made a split-second decision. "You okay?" Jake asked, sitting down beside her. "It's surreal," she replied. 2 days ago, nobody knew I existed. Now I'm on the news." Mike's radio crackled with updates from the scene. The bikers were maintaining their distance but staying visible, sending a clear message to Viper about how outnumbered he was. Back at the auto shop, Detective Williams had established communication with Viper through Tony's landline phone. "Vincent, this is Detective Williams. I need you to release Tony and come out with your hands up." "Not happening," Viper shouted back. "You think I'm stupid? The second I walk out there, those bikers are going to tear me apart. The police are in control of this situation. You'll be arrested safely and given a fair trial." Viper laughed bitterly. "Fair trial? I shot their golden girl. They want blood, not justice." Detective Williams tried a different approach. "What do you want, Vincent? How do we end this peacefully?" There was a long pause before Viper answered. "I want safe passage out of the city. Give me a car and a 2-hour head start, and I'll release Tony." "You know I can't do that." The standoff continued for another hour. SWAT officers reported that Viper seemed increasingly agitated, pacing frantically and talking to himself. The situation was deteriorating. Mike's voice came over Jake's radio. "I'm going to try something." "Detective Williams wants to talk to Lisa?" Jake handed her the radio with a questioning look. "Lisa, this is Detective Williams. Viper keeps talking about you. He seems obsessed with the idea that this is all about revenge for shooting a nurse. Would you be willing to talk to him? Sometimes hearing from the victim can help defuse these situations." Lisa's heart started pounding. The last thing she wanted was to talk to the man who had tried to kill Jake and shot her. But if it could end this peacefully, double quote, what would I say to him? Just tell him the truth. That you don't want revenge, you want justice. That if he surrenders, he'll be treated fairly. Lisa looked at Jake, who squeezed her hand supportively. "It's your choice," he said. "Nobody would blame you for saying no." After a moment of internal struggle, Lisa keyed the radio. "I'll do it." Detective Williams patched her through to the garage phone. When Viper answered, his voice was harsh and suspicious. Who is this? This is Lisa, the nurse you shot. There was dead silence on the line. Lisa could hear her own heartbeat while she waited for him to respond. You're lying. They wouldn't let the victim talk to me. I asked to talk to you, Lisa said, surprised by how steady her voice sounded, because I want you to understand something. Yeah? What's that? I don't hate you. I'm not looking for revenge. I just want this to end before someone else gets hurt. Viper's laugh was ugly. Right, and I suppose all those bikers out there just want to have a peaceful conversation too. They're here because they believe in protecting people who can't protect themselves. Just like I believed in protecting Jake when you tried to kill him. He's a criminal, he deals drugs. Maybe, Lisa replied. But that doesn't give you the right to be judge and jury. If he broke the law, let the police handle it. There was another long pause. When Viper spoke again, his voice was quieter. You know why I went after him? Tell me. My little brother overdosed on drugs that came through Jake's territory. He was only 19. Lisa felt a stab of sympathy. I'm sorry about your brother, I really am. But killing Jake won't bring him back, and shooting innocent people definitely won't honor his memory. Those bikers would have done the same thing if it was their brother. You're probably right, Lisa admitted. But they would have gone after the people who actually sold the drugs, not just anyone who happened to be in the same general area. Outside the garage, the SWAT commander was getting impatient. How much longer are we going to wait? My men are ready to go in. Detective Williams held up a hand. Give it a few more minutes. She's getting through to him. Inside, Viper was staring at the phone as if it might bite him. This wasn't how he had expected the conversation to go. He had thought the nurse would be angry, demanding justice. Instead, she sounded like someone who actually cared about his pain. What happens if I surrender? He asked finally. You get arrested, you get a lawyer, and you get a trial, Lisa replied. Just like everyone else, and the bikers? They're not vigilantes. They just wanted to make sure you were caught. If you surrender to the police, they'll respect that. Tony, still tied up on the floor, watched hopefully as Viper seemed to consider his options. Vincent, Lisa said gently, you made some bad choices, but you can still make a good one. Let Tony go and surrender. Don't let this get any worse. After what felt like an eternity, Viper set down his gun and walked to where Tony was sitting. He cut the zip ties with a pocket knife. Go, he told Tony quietly. Tell them I'm coming out. Tony didn't need to be told twice. He ran for the door, shouting, Don't shoot, he's surrendering. 2 minutes later, Viper walked out of the garage with his hands raised high above his head. SWAT officers moved in quickly, handcuffing him and checking for weapons as they led him. To a police car, Viper looked toward the ring of motorcycles. The bikers watched silently, their faces hard but satisfied. Justice was being served the right way. Detective Williams approached the police car before they drove away. Vincent, you made the right choice. Viper nodded toward the bikers. Tell the nurse, tell her I'm sorry, about everything. The police car pulled away and slowly the motorcycles began to disperse. The standoff was over without any more violence. At the clubhouse, Lisa felt a mixture of relief and exhaustion. It was finally finished. Part 7. Justice and Consequences 6 months later. Lisa sat in the courthouse witness gallery watching Viper's sentencing. The judge had just finished reading the charges: attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon, kidnapping, and weapons violations. The recommended sentence was 15 years in state prison. Viper stood quietly as the judge spoke. No longer the wild-eyed gunman from that night at the auto shop. Prison had changed him. He looked smaller, older, more defeated. When given the chance to speak before sentencing, he turned toward Lisa. I know sorry doesn't fix anything, he said, his voice barely audible. But I am sorry. You didn't deserve what I did to you. Nobody did. Lisa nodded slightly. She had forgiven him months ago. Though she wasn't sure he would ever forgive himself, the judge announced the final sentence. 12 years with possibility of parole in 8. Viper accepted it without expression and was led away in handcuffs, outside. The courthouse, Detective Williams found Lisa on the steps. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Relieved mostly," she replied. "It's really over now. The district attorney wanted me to thank you again. Your testimony and willingness to talk Viper down probably saved lives that day." Lisa thought about the conversation in the auto shop. Even now, she wasn't sure what had convinced Viper to surrender. Maybe it was exhaustion, maybe it was realizing he had nowhere left to run, or maybe it was just hearing someone acknowledge his pain without excusing his actions. Jake appeared beside them, having parked his motorcycle across the street, ready to go. Over the past 6 months, Jake and Lisa had developed an unlikely friendship. He had appointed himself her unofficial bodyguard during the trial preparation, making sure she felt safe coming and going from court appearances. Their relationship was platonic but deep, forged by shared trauma and mutual respect. "How's the new job?" Detective Williams asked Lisa as they walked. Lisa smiled. "Good, different but good." After the shooting, Lisa had taken a leave of absence from the emergency room. The hospital had been supportive, but she found herself struggling with anxiety and flashbacks. Simple things like loud noises or unexpected movements would send her heart racing. Mike had suggested she consider a different kind of nursing, something less intense that would still let her help people. Through connections in the motorcycle community, she had found a position at a rehabilitation center that specialized in helping injured veterans and recovering addicts. "It's quieter than the Lisa explained to Detective Williams, "but the patients need just as much care. Some of them are bikers who got hurt in accidents. It's nice being able to help people Mike's friends care about." The detective smiled. "I have to admit, when this whole thing started, I never expected it to end with a nurse joining the motorcycle community." "I haven't joined anything," Lisa protested. "I just have some new friends who happen to ride bikes," Jake laughed. "Tell that to the guys who still call you Sister Lisa and ask about your health every time I see them." It was true. Word of Lisa's actions had spread throughout the motorcycle community far beyond California. She received cards and letters from bikers across the country, thanking her for showing courage and representing the values they respected. Some had even made donations to the rehabilitation center where she worked. The respect works both ways. Lisa said, "I learned that the stereotype about bikers being criminals isn't fair. Most of the guys I've met are just working people who love motorcycles and take care of their families and communities." Detective Williams nodded. "This case definitely changed some perspectives around the police department, too." The way the clubs cooperated with law enforcement was impressive. As they reached Jake's bike, Lisa's phone buzzed with a text message. She smiled reading it. "What is it?" Jake asked. "Mike's daughter just graduated from nursing school. She wants me to come to the celebration dinner tonight." Over the past months, Lisa had been gradually welcomed into the extended family of the Oakland chapter. She attended barbecues, birthday parties, and club events. The bikers' wives and girlfriends had embraced her as one of their own, and she had formed genuine friendships with people she never would have met otherwise. "Are you going?" Jake asked, starting his bike. "Of course." Maria worked really hard for this. As they rode through the city toward the clubhouse, Lisa reflected on how much her life had changed. The shooting had been traumatic, but it had also opened doors to experiences and relationships she never could have imagined. She had learned to ride her own motorcycle, a small Honda that Jake had helped her find and customize. She had developed an appreciation for the freedom and brotherhood that drew people to biker culture. Most importantly, she had discovered a community that valued loyalty, courage, and taking care of each other. The rehabilitation center had benefited too. Several club members had volunteered their time helping with maintenance and transportation for patients. When funding was cut for the program that helped homeless veterans, the bikers had organized fundraising rides that brought in thousands of dollars. "It's funny," Lisa said to Jake as they pulled into the clubhouse parking lot. "I used to think my life was complete just working at the hospital and going home to my apartment. I never realized how much I was missing." "What were you missing?" "Family, real family. People who have your back no matter what." Inside the clubhouse, the celebration was already underway. Maria, Mike's daughter, wore her new nursing school pin proudly while accepting congratulations from dozens of bikers and their families. When she saw Lisa, she ran over for a hug. "I can't believe I'm finally done," Maria exclaimed. "And I got a job offer at the Children's Hospital downtown." "That's wonderful," Lisa replied. "You'll be great with kids." Mike approached with a beer for Jake and a soda for Lisa. "How did the sentencing go?" 12 years, Jake reported. "He'll probably serve 8 with good behavior." Mike nodded with satisfaction. Justice served, and nobody had to die for it. It was true. The entire incident, from the diner shooting to Viper's arrest, could have resulted in multiple deaths. Instead, careful planning, restraint, and Lisa's willingness to talk to her attacker had prevented further violence. "The important thing is it's over," Lisa said. "Viper gets the help he needs in prison, Tony is safe, and everyone can move on." As the evening progressed, Lisa found herself surrounded by conversations about jobs, kids, vacation plans, and all the normal things that families discuss. The leather vests and tattoos had stopped seeming intimidating months ago. Now she just saw friends and adopted family members. Later, as Jake gave her a ride home to her new apartment, she had moved to a safer neighborhood with the club's help. Lisa felt grateful for the strange turns her life had taken. "Do you ever regret it?" Jake asked as they sat at a red light. "Getting involved in all this?" Lisa considered the question seriously. "No," she said finally. "I mean, I wish nobody had gotten hurt. But I don't regret helping you, and I don't regret everything that came after. My life is richer now. More complicated, but richer." "Good," Jake said. "Because whether you like it or not, you're stuck with us now." Lisa laughed. "I think I can live with that." As they drove through the quiet streets, she thought about how one moment of courage had changed everything. She had saved Jake's life, and found a new family in the process. Sometimes the best things in life came from the most unexpected places. Part 8. Unlikely bonds. 1 year after the shooting, Lisa stood in her graduation cap and gown, scanning the crowd for familiar faces. She had just completed her master's degree in trauma counseling, a career change inspired by her own experience. Recovering from the attack and her work with patients at the rehabilitation center. In the third row, she spotted Jake's distinctive ponytail and leather jacket. Next to him sat Mike, his wife Carol, and their daughter Maria, who was now working as a pediatric nurse. Behind them were at least 20 other club members who had taken time off work to attend her graduation ceremony. The sight made her smile. A year ago, if someone had told her that a group of Hell's Angels would be cheering at her college graduation, she would have thought they were crazy. Professor Martinez called her name, and Lisa walked across the stage to receive her diploma. The biker section erupted in cheers and whistles that echoed through the auditorium. Other families looked around in confusion, but Lisa just grinned and waved at her unconventional support group. After the ceremony, the celebration moved to Murphy's Diner, the same place where everything had started. Betty, now retired, had come back specially to serve their group. The old woman beamed as she watched Lisa surrounded by her adopted family. "I always knew there was something special about you," Betty told Lisa as she refilled coffee cups. "But I never imagined it would lead to all this." Lisa looked around the diner, now filled with laughter and conversation. The corner booth where Jake had been sitting that night was occupied by 2 club prospects, young men earning their way into the Brotherhood. It was strange how a place that had witnessed such violence had become a symbol of healing and new beginnings. "So what's next?" Mike asked as they shared pieces of graduation cake that Carol had baked. "I got a job offer from the county," Lisa replied. "They want me to develop a program for helping crime victims cope with trauma. Apparently, my experience makes me uniquely qualified." Jake raised his coffee cup in a toast. "Here's to Lisa, who saved my life and found her calling in the process." Everyone raised their cups, and Lisa felt tears in her eyes. Not from sadness, but from overwhelming gratitude for the journey that had brought her to this moment. 2 months later, Lisa sat in her new office at the county building, reviewing case files for her trauma counseling program. Her first client was scheduled to arrive in 10 minutes, a teenage girl who had witnessed a drive-by shooting and was struggling with nightmares and anxiety. The irony wasn't lost on Lisa. She was now helping other people deal with the same kind of trauma she had experienced. Her own healing journey had taught her that recovery wasn't about forgetting what happened, but about integrating the experience in a way that made you stronger and more compassionate. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jake. "Can you meet me at the clubhouse tonight? Someone wants to talk to you." Lisa had learned that mysterious invitations from Jake usually meant something interesting was happening. She texted back that she would be there after work. That evening, she rode her Honda to the clubhouse, still amazed by how comfortable she had become navigating the world of motorcycle clubs. Her bike was smaller and quieter than the Harleys, but the members had accepted it as perfectly suitable for her needs. Inside, she found Jake waiting with a man she didn't recognize. He was older, maybe 60, with gray hair and tired eyes. Something about his posture suggested he carried a heavy burden. "Lisa, this is Frank," Jake said. "His daughter was killed in a gang shooting 6 months ago. He's been struggling with anger and thoughts of revenge." "Mike thought you might be able to help," Lisa understood immediately. Frank was where Vepper had been a year ago, consumed by grief and rage, looking for someone to blame and hurt. The difference was that Frank had reached out for help before acting on his emotions. "I heard about what you did," Frank said quietly. "How you saved Jake's life and then talked the shooter into surrendering instead of letting the bikers handle it their way. I need to understand how you found the strength to choose forgiveness over revenge." Lisa invited Frank to sit down, recognizing the pain in his voice. "It wasn't easy," she admitted. "And it didn't happen overnight. For weeks after the shooting, I was angry too. Angry at Viper, angry at the situation, angry at myself for getting involved. So what changed? I realized that my anger was hurting me more than it was hurting him. And I learned that justice doesn't always have to look like revenge. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is choose healing over hatred." They talked for 2 hours. Frank shared stories about his daughter, a college student, who had been caught in crossfire while walking home from her job at a bookstore. Lisa listened without judgment, offering insights from her own journey and her professional training. "The men who killed your daughter deserve to face justice," Lisa said as their conversation wound down. "But destroying your own life with hatred won't bring her back or honor her memory." Frank nodded slowly. "I know that in my head. It's my heart that's having trouble catching up." "That's normal," Lisa assured him. "Grief has its own timeline. But I can help you work through it in healthy ways, if you're willing." Frank became one of Lisa's regular clients, and over the following months, she watched him transform his pain into purpose. Instead of seeking revenge, he started a scholarship fund in his daughter's name and began advocating for better safety measures in high-crime neighborhoods. Lisa's reputation grew. She found herself counseling people from all walks of life. Gang members trying to leave violent lifestyles, police officers dealing with PTSD, family members of both victims and perpetrators of violence. Her unique perspective, shaped by her experience with the bikers and her professional training, allowed her to connect with clients in ways that other counselors sometimes couldn't. The motorcycle community continued to be an important part of her life. She regularly attended club events, rode in charity runs, and even spoke at regional meetings about conflict resolution and trauma recovery. The respect she had earned from saving Jake's life had given her a platform to promote healing and understanding between different communities. One evening, as she was leaving her office, Lisa found Jake waiting by her bike with a serious expression. "Is everything okay?" she asked. Jake smiled. "Everything's great. I just wanted to give you something." He handed her a small leather patch, not the full club colors, but an honorary designation that read "Friend of the Family" with the Oakland chapter's logo. "The vote was unanimous," Jake explained. "You've earned this 100 times over." Lisa held the patch carefully, understanding its significance. In the motorcycle world, patches weren't just decorations. They were symbols of belonging, respect, and shared values. "Thank you," she said, genuinely moved. This means more to me than you know. As they stood in the parking lot, Lisa reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them together. A split-second decision to protect a stranger had led to friendship, purpose, and a completely transformed life. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't been at the diner that night? Jake asked, as if reading her thoughts. Lisa considered the question. Sometimes. But I try not to focus on alternate timelines. This is the life I have, and I'm grateful for every part of it, even the scary parts. Jake nodded. You know what? I think you would have found your way to helping people no matter what. Maybe it would have taken longer, maybe it would have looked different, but your heart was always pointing in this direction. Maybe, Lisa agreed. But I definitely wouldn't have learned to ride a motorcycle or discovered that bikers make some of the most loyal friends in the world. They both laughed, and Jake helped her put on her helmet. As Lisa rode home through the city streets, she thought about all the lives that had been changed by that night at Murphy's diner Viper was serving. His sentence but had reportedly found peace through prison counseling programs. Tony had moved his auto shop to a safer neighborhood and hired 2 formerly homeless veterans as mechanics. Frank was channeling his grief into positive action. Even some of the club members had been inspired to pursue education or start businesses, most. Importantly, Lisa had discovered that courage wasn't about being fearless, it was about choosing to do the right thing despite being afraid. That lesson had shaped her new career and continued to guide her daily decisions. As she pulled into her driveway, Lisa's phone buzzed with a text from Maria. Emergency at the Children's Hospital. Need someone who speaks biker to help with a scared kid whose dad just got arrested. Can you come? Lisa smiled and texted back, on my way. Some things never changed. There were always people who needed help. And Lisa had found her calling in being the bridge between different worlds, bringing healing, understanding, and hope to places where they were needed most. She started her bike again and headed back into the night, carrying with her the lessons learned from an unlikely family and the unshakable belief that every person deserved a chance at redemption and peace.